even worth the effort anymore. I can't believe I wasted 15 years on someone so mediocre. Those were the exact words my husband spoke to me over breakfast on a Tuesday morning in March. Not during a fight. Not in a moment of anger. Just casually, like he was commenting on the weather, while scrolling through his phone and eating the omelet I'd made him. I remember the fork stopping halfway to my mouth. I remember the morning light streaming through our kitchen window in our Boston brownstone. I remember thinking how strange it was that the moment your marriage dies can feel so ordinary. "Excuse me?" I managed to say. He didn't even look up. "You heard me, Claire. I'm done pretending. I haven't been attracted to you in years. You've let yourself go. You're boring. You have nothing interesting to say anymore. I'm moving into the guest room." And just like that, he stood up, put his plate in the sink and walked away. 15 years of marriage dismissed in less than 30 seconds. I sat there for probably 20 minutes, my coffee going cold, trying to process what had just happened. But here's the thing, I wasn't shocked. Not really. Because I'd seen the signs for months. I'd just been too afraid to name them. Let me back up. My name is Claire Morrison. I'm 42 years old. Or I was when this story began. I'd been married to Daniel Morrison for 15 years. We met in graduate school at MIT, both of us studying engineering. He was brilliant, charming, ambitious. I was impressed by his drive. He said he was impressed by my mind. We built a life together. He became a senior project manager at a tech firm. I scaled back my career to raise our 2 kids, Emma, 13, and Noah, 10. The classic story. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I'd get back to my career when the kids were older. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being Claire the engineer and became Claire the wife, Claire the mom, Claire the person who made sure everyone else's life ran smoothly while her own dreams gathered dust. The signs had been there for months before that Tuesday morning. Daniel had started going to the gym 5 days a week. Suddenly, he cared about his appearance in a way he never had before. New clothes. Expensive haircuts. Cologne I'd never smelled before. He'd lost 20 pounds and looked better than he had in years. At first, I'd been happy for him. Proud, even. I'd encouraged it. I was so stupid. He'd stopped touching me around the same time. At first, it was subtle. A kiss on the cheek instead of the lips. Pulling away when I tried to hug him. Making excuses when I initiated intimacy. Too tired. Too stressed. Too busy. Then there were the late nights at work. The weekend emergency meetings. The phone calls he'd take in another room. The way his face would light up when a text came through, then immediately go blank when he saw me looking. I tried to talk to him about it. Multiple times. He'd shut me down every time. Told me I was being paranoid. Told me I was too needy. Told me his work was demanding and I should be more supportive. So, I tried harder. I'd started cooking his favorite meals again. I'd suggested date nights. I'd bought new clothes. I tried to be more interesting, more fun, more whatever it was he seemed to need. But nothing worked. He'd cancel our plans at the last minute. He'd barely touch the food I made. He'd look at me with something that resembled disgust. That morning, when he finally said the quiet part out loud, something clicked into place. The confusion cleared. Because suddenly I understood this wasn't about me being enough. This had never been about me at all. I waited until he left for work. Then I did something I'd never done before. I picked up his iPad, the one he always left at home, and I looked. I know what you're thinking. Snooping is wrong. It's a violation of trust. But you know what else is a violation? 15 years of lies. His messages were there. All of them. Because he'd never bothered to set up a separate password. Why would he? I was mediocre, boring Claire. Too stupid to ever question him. Her name was Natalie Chen. 29 years old. A new hire at his company. She'd started 8 months ago. The messages went back 7 months and 3 weeks. I read every single one. It took me 3 hours. And with each message, each photo, each explicit conversation, I felt something inside me crystallize into something cold and clear. They'd been sleeping together for 7 months. He'd told her he loved her. He'd taken her to the same restaurants we used to go to. He'd used our couple's massage's gift certificate, the one I'd bought him for his birthday, to take her to the spa. He'd told her I was frigid. That our marriage had been dead for years. That he was only staying until the kids were older. That she was everything I wasn't: passionate, exciting, young. He'd promised her he'd leave me by the end of the year. But here's the most interesting part. In one message, he'd written, "I need to make sure everything is set up right first. The house is in both our names and there's the investments. I need to talk to someone about how to structure things so I don't lose everything." He was planning his exit, calculating how to leave me with as little as possible, while I was making his breakfast and raising his children and trying desperately to save a marriage that he'd already murdered. I took screenshots of everything. Every message. Every photo. Every detailed plan about their future together and how to minimize his financial obligations to me. Then I put the iPad back exactly where I'd found it. I made myself a cup of tea. And I started planning. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I didn't fall apart. I didn't call my sister or my best friend or have an emotional breakdown. I got strategic. The old Claire would have confronted him immediately. Would have begged him to choose us, to go to counseling, to try to save the marriage. The old Claire would have believed his gaslighting, his excuses, his promises to do better. But that Claire died on a Tuesday morning in March when her husband called her mediocre. The new Claire? She played the long game. I went back to acting normal. Sweet, oblivious Claire who didn't notice her husband barely looked at her. Who made dinner every night and asked about his day and never questioned where he was or who he was with. Meanwhile, I started building my case. I documented everything. I created a separate cloud account he didn't know about. I uploaded every screenshot, every piece of evidence. I took photos of the credit card statements showing the spa visits, the restaurant charges, the hotel rooms. I opened a bank account in just my name. Started funneling small amounts of money there every week from our joint account. Grocery money, gas money. Amounts small enough he'd never notice. I made copies of every financial document we had. Investment accounts. Retirement funds. The deed to the house. His employment contracts. And then I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I asked around discreetly. I found the best divorce attorney in Boston. Catherine Walsh. She had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless and getting her clients everything they deserved. I met with her on a Thursday afternoon while Daniel was at work and the kids were at school. I brought everything I'd gathered. She looked through it all. Then she looked at me with something like respect. "Mrs. Morrison," she said. "You've done my job for me. This is airtight. He won't have a leg to stand on." "Good," I said. "Because I want everything I'm entitled to." He wants to call me mediocre? He wants to throw away 15 years like they meant nothing? Then he can pay for that choice. She smiled. "I like you. We're going to work well together." We planned everything carefully. In Massachusetts, there's no legal separation period required for a no-fault divorce. But I wanted fault. I wanted everyone to know exactly what he'd done. Catherine advised me to wait a few more weeks. To gather more evidence if possible. To make sure he didn't get suspicious and start hiding assets. So I waited. I played the perfect wife. I smiled when he came home late. I didn't comment when he moved his things into the guest room because of his snoring. I even suggested he should take a weekend trip to de-stress, knowing full well he'd take Natalie. He did. And I documented it all. The hotel charge in Vermont. The photos she posted on Instagram of their secret getaway before hastily deleting them. During those weeks I also did something else. I started taking care of myself. Not for him. Not to win him back. For me. I called a therapist. Dr. Sarah Park. She was incredible. In our first session, I broke down everything that had happened. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Angry," I said. "Humiliated. Stupid for not seeing it sooner." "You're not stupid," she said firmly. "You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupidity. That's being human." Over the next few weeks, she helped me understand something crucial. Daniel's betrayal wasn't about my worth. It was about his character. I could have been perfect in every way and he still would have done this. Because this was who he was, someone who valued novelty over commitment, who blamed others for his choices, who lied to avoid consequences. I also hired a personal trainer. Started working out 4 times a week. Not to look good for Daniel or to compete with Natalie, but because I needed to feel strong. I needed to remember that my body was mine and it could be powerful. I went back to my professional network. Reached out to old colleagues from my engineering days. Started exploring what opportunities might exist. Started remembering that I'd once been brilliant at what I did. And I made a plan for after. For what my life would look like when this was over. 6 weeks after that Tuesday morning, Catherine told me it was time. We filed on a Wednesday. Daniel was served at work. The papers outlined everything: adultery, detailed evidence, request for full custody of the children, spousal support, division of all marital assets. He called me 47 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. I was at Catherine's office, waiting. He came home that evening looking like he'd been hit by a truck. "Claire, we need to talk." "No, we don't," I said calmly. "Everything I have to say is in those papers. You can communicate through my attorney." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You've been sleeping with Natalie Chen for 7 months. You've been planning to leave me while trying to hide as many assets as possible. You've been lying to me for almost a year. Did I miss anything?" His face went white. "How did you? Your iPad. You should have set a better password. Or maybe you just thought I was too mediocre and boring to ever think of looking." I watched him process this. Watched him go through denial, anger, panic. "Claire, please. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. We can work this out." "No, we can't. Because you're right about one thing: you did waste 15 years, but not in the way you think. You wasted 15 years with someone who loved you, who supported you, who built a life with you. And you threw it away for someone young enough to be impressed by your job title and your fancy dinners. The kids will be fine. Because unlike you, I actually care about their well-being more than my own ego. Which is why I documented everything. Including your plans to minimize your financial obligations to them. You can't take my kids from me. I'm not taking them from you. You can have visitation. But primary custody will be mine. You work 70 hours a week and you're in a relationship with someone they've never met. I'm the stable parent. The court will see that." He tried to argue. Tried to threaten. Tried to bargain. I stayed calm through all of it. Finally, he left. Went to stay at a hotel. Or maybe with Natalie, I didn't care. The kids got home an hour later. I sat them down and told them their father and I were getting divorced. That it wasn't their fault. That we both still loved them. That nothing about their lives would change except Daddy would live somewhere else. Emma, my 13-year-old, looked at me with eyes too wise for her age. "Is he cheating on you?" I wasn't going to lie to her. "Yes." She nodded. I kind of figured. He's been different. Noah, my 10-year-old, just cried. I held him while he asked me why, told him I wished I had better answers. It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. But I got through it. Because I was stronger than I'd been 6 weeks ago. The divorce process took 4 months. 4 months of legal battles, of negotiating, of Daniel trying every trick to pay less, keep more, look better. But Catherine was brilliant. Every time he tried something, she had the evidence to counter it. Every lie he told, she exposed. Every asset he tried to hide, she found. The breakthrough came when we discovered something interesting. Daniel had been using company resources for his affair. Company time, company credit cards for some of their hotels, even a company car for a weekend trip. His company had a strict morality clause. Catherine sent them a detailed letter outlining the evidence. 3 days later, Daniel was fired. Not just fired, terminated for cause, which meant no severance package, no stock options that hadn't vested yet. He lost his 6-figure job because he couldn't keep it in his pants. The final settlement came through in July. I got the house. I got primary custody with him having the kids every other weekend. I got 60% of all marital assets including his 401k and investment accounts. I got 5 years of spousal support, enough to go back to school if I wanted, or to live comfortably while I rebuilt my career. He had to pay child support based on his previous income level, even though he was now unemployed. Natalie, by the way, broke up with him 2 weeks after he lost his job. Apparently, a 45-year-old unemployed man living in a studio apartment wasn't as exciting as a successful project manager with money to spend. Karma worked fast. But here's the thing, none of that was the real victory. The real victory was what happened next. While Daniel was scrambling to find a new job and figure out how to pay his lawyers, I was rebuilding my life. I'd started consulting part-time for an engineering firm, using the skills I'd let atrophy for over a decade. And I was good at it, really good. Within 2 months, they offered me a full-time position, senior consultant, nearly 6 figures to start. I accepted. I'd also kept up with therapy. Dr. Park helped me work through not just the betrayal, but all the ways I'd diminished myself over the years. All the dreams I'd deferred. All the times I'd made myself smaller to make Daniel comfortable. You spent 15 years being who he wanted you to be, she told me. Now you get to discover who you actually are. And I did. I took up painting again, something I'd loved in college but abandoned. I started hiking with a local group. I went to dinner with friends I'd neglected. I traveled with the kids to places Daniel had never wanted to go. I became myself again. Not mediocre. Not boring. Just me. And it turned out, I was pretty interesting. I also started dating. Eventually. Not seriously at first. Just coffee dates. Casual dinners. Testing the waters. Remembering what it felt like to have someone look at me with interest instead of contempt. His name was Michael Torres. 44. Civil engineer. Divorced, 2 kids of his own. We met at a professional conference in October. We started talking about load-bearing calculations and somehow ended up discussing our favorite hiking trails. He asked me to dinner. I said yes. There was no drama. No love bombing. No rushing. Just 2 people who'd been through similar experiences, taking things slow, actually getting to know each other. On our 3rd date he told me, "You know what I love about you? You're authentic. You're not trying to be anything other than who you are." It's refreshing. I almost cried. Because after 15 years of trying to be enough for someone who would never value me, here was someone who appreciated me exactly as I was. We've been together for 8 months now. It's healthy. It's respectful. It's partnership, not performance. The kids like him. They like his kids. We're building something real and solid with no games and no lies. Meanwhile, Daniel is on his 3rd job since the divorce. Can't seem to keep one. Keeps being let go for performance issues. Which probably has something to do with the fact that everyone in the Boston tech scene knows what he did. Word travels fast in professional communities. And when you're fired for cause for an extramarital affair, people remember. He tried dating again. Natalie wasn't the only young woman who lost interest when his circumstances changed. Turns out, when you're broke and bitter, you're not as attractive as you thought. Last I heard, he's dating someone age-appropriate who doesn't put up with his nonsense. Good for her. I hope she got a better version than I did, though I doubt it. He sees the kids every other weekend, like the agreement states. They're cordial with him. Emma barely tolerates him. Noah tries harder because that's who he is, kind, forgiving. They're both in therapy to help process everything. I ran into Daniel about a month ago. At a coffee shop downtown. He looked tired. Older. The gym habit apparently didn't last when he couldn't afford the membership. He saw me, and froze. I was with Michael. We'd just come from a morning run, we're laughing about something, both of us glowing and happy. "Claire," Daniel said. "Daniel," I replied, polite but distant. He looked at Michael. Looked at me. I could see him calculating, comparing, seeing that I was genuinely happy. That I'd moved on in every way that mattered. "You look good," he said quietly. "I am good," I said. "Take care of yourself, Daniel." And I walked away. Because I didn't need his validation anymore. Didn't need him to see what he'd lost. Didn't need any kind of closure or acknowledgement from him. I'd already won. Not because of the settlement or because he'd lost his job or because I found someone better. I won because I found myself. That Tuesday morning in March, when he called me mediocre, he thought he was crushing me. Thought he was pronouncing judgment on my worth. Instead, he set me free. Free from trying to please someone who would never be pleased. Free from shrinking myself to fit his expectations. Free from a marriage that was slowly suffocating who I really was. He thought 15 years with me was wasted. But I spent those 15 years raising 2 incredible kids. Building a home. Developing skills that would serve me later. Learning exactly what I didn't want in a partner. And when it ended, I didn't fall apart. I got strategic. I got strong. I got everything I deserved. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry. If I hate him for what he did. Honestly? No. I'm grateful. Because his betrayal, his cruelty, his selfishness, his complete lack of respect, it woke me up. It forced me to stop being passive in my own life. It made me remember that I was capable and intelligent and worthy, regardless of whether he saw it. The best revenge isn't making him suffer. It's living so well that his opinion of me becomes completely irrelevant. And that's exactly what I did. I'm 43 now. I have a career I love. Kids who are thriving. A partner who values me. Friends who support me. Hobbies that fulfill me. A life that's entirely mine. Daniel wanted to trade me in for a newer model. Instead, he traded a partner for loneliness. Traded stability for chaos. Traded someone who loved him for a series of people who love what he used to represent. I traded resentment for peace. Traded settling for thriving. Traded being mediocre in his eyes for being extraordinary in my own. So yeah, when my husband told me I wasn't worth the effort anymore, I proved him right. I wasn't worth his effort. Because I was worth so much more than he was capable of giving. And now I'm living a life that proves it every single day. That's my story. Not of being a victim. Not of being destroyed by betrayal. But of being underestimated by someone who thought I was weak, and using that to build something stronger than he ever imagined. The woman he called mediocre? She's gone. And in her place is someone who knows exactly what she's worth.